stumbling along here. Um, Today I'm reading some of my personal favorite scary stories. Since spooky since spooky day is fastly approaching, I think that it would be a nice, fun bonding experience to tell you about some of my favorite scary stories. Now, I've handcrafted this little home base situation for us for now. I'll disable everything here and we'll just let that play in the background. So let's do video. That should be fine. Is that everything? Yeah, there we go. So yeah, we'll just let that play in the background. Feel free to chat or request stories if you have any. So we're just gonna start with some calmer ones to lead us into this. Um, so how this is gonna go is we'll start with like stories that everybody knows that are super like kind of cheesy and like not that bad. And as the night goes on, they will get progressively spookier, scarier. It's currently raining outside, so if you hear that, apologies, but it adds atmosphere, so so yeah, we'll start. The first story is of some origin. I can't remember exactly where this first came from, but it is called High Beams. So the story goes like this. One afternoon, a woman was driving home late at night. Well, not one afternoon, right. One night, a woman was driving home in her car, and a man was following behind her. Which, normal at first, right? So, she begins to drive, and he stays behind her, and every now and again. So she keeps going, just like doesn't think much of it, but as she takes more twists and turns, the guy is still behind her and periodically flashes his high beams. She is starting to get a little bit anxious at this point, right? So she she tries to lose him, but he's still following, periodically flashing his high beam there. So she's driving, and she is getting like pretty freaked out at this point, but he does it again. So she drives, and she knows where a nearby gas station is. So she goes and she pulls over there where there are a couple cars parked around, and she gets out, and sure enough, the guy pulls in behind. He pulls in next to her. She gets out of her car. He stops. He gets out of his car, and he says, "Ma'am, you need to call the police immediately." So she's like, what's going on? What's going on? He goes, "There's someone in the backseat of your car." So she calls the police, and turns out he was a killer who had been recently let loose in the area. So, good start for the night. Sending some chills down your spine, perhaps. The next story I'm going to tell is another story that's pretty common. If you ever read any scary stories to tell in the dark books, you'll have heard this one. I think it comes from In a Dark, Dark Room, which I read when I was very young, which some of those stories gave me nightmares because I was a kindergartner who couldn't keep his nose out of stories like that. So, a woman, we'll call her Jessica. Jessica, and she met a man. They start talking, and they hit it off really, really well. So, Jessica is talking to him, and eventually they become good friends. And eventually, like as they're speaking, he asks her about the red ribbon that she's wearing around her neck. He goes, why do why do you wear the ribbon? She kind of shrugs it off and doesn't really answer. So, some time passes and they become even better friends. But he sees her several times after that, and she always has this ribbon on. So, eventually, they get older, and they fall in love, and they're dating, and he asks her again, why do you always wear that ribbon around your neck? She just replies, I must never take off my red ribbon. So, they continue, and eventually they get married. He asks on their wedding day, why do you wear this red ribbon? I've never seen you take it off, your red ribbon. So sure enough, time passes, and they have children, and they're starting to get older, and he asks her again, why do you wear this ribbon around your neck? She replies the same answer she's always had, I must never remove my red ribbon. A few months pass, and she's starting to get sickly. Her skin pales, and she is bedridden. She can't get up, and she's having a nap. Seeing this as an opportunity, he unties the ribbon from around her neck, and her head rolls onto the floor. And then she looks at him and shrieks, I must never remove my red ribbon. That's one of my favorites. I like telling that one to children. I always had that one like in the back of my mind, ready to like any given moment. So how we feeling? A little shaky? Doing good still? Any all feedback is appreciated. What's the third one? Okay. This common one to tell. I may actually turn this on. Alright. So, this story goes by many names. I don't know the original author, because I think it's just been told through person after person after person for forever, I guess. I call it Little White Dog. So, it goes like this. An older woman, lives in an apartment alone with her little white dog. And every night it likes to sleep every night it usually sleeps by her bed or by the fireplace. So she was up late one night, and she was reading the newspaper, and a local, I think it's a sanitarium, the local hospital, there was an escape of a dangerous man who was known for killing older women who lived alone. So she starts to get a bit nervous, and she dangles her hand over her bed so that her little dog can lick it, and it calms her down. And sure enough, it's licking her fingers and stuff, and she starts to feel calmed. So she starts to fall asleep a little bit, but before she can close her eyes fully, she notices that her little white dog is asleep by the fireplace. But sure enough, there's something down there looking at her fingers. And there comes the rain. That one's a shorter one, but there's a lot of it. In some versions, he kills the dog and writes on the mirror, humans can lick too. But I choose to leave out that detail because I like animals too much. Just trying to find. This is gonna be a lot shorter than I thought it was gonna be. Let me pull up some more. I haven't been on this website in so long. For context, I'm using a website called Scary for Kids. I have read everything on here. Not even joking. I've read a whole lot. If I haven't read the entire website, I've read like 80% of it. Trying to find one that I remember, because it's easier for me to gauge what it sounds like, how, if I have read it before. I'm trying to look for a specific one, I think. I don't mess with urban legends anymore. It's just short stories. I used to find like chain letters on here and stuff all the time, because that was funny. There might be some new ones on here, honestly. Alright, let's do this one. This one's called Internet Star. Give me a moment. A 19-year-old girl was attending university in Japan. In her second year of study, she decided that she wanted to improve her English to a university in the United States. She had always wanted to live in the USA, but she did not anticipate how difficult the change would be for her. The course she was studying were a lot of reports. Attending the university in Japan, she submitted all her reports in Japanese. However, in the American university, all of the reports had to be in English. This caused a big problem for the girl because her command of the English language was not very good. She had to spend hours upon hours checking the spelling and grammar while typing up her reports. Another problem was that she didn't own a laptop. Luckily, the university library had a computer lab with approximately 50 computers that was open 24 hours a day. Unfortunately, there were always long queues of people waiting to use them. Every morning she had lectures and every evening she had to queue for the computer. This all took its toll, and after a while the girl became fed up with the daily grind. Late one night, after the girl had been sitting, hunched over a computer for hours, she began to get restless. It was almost 2 a.m. and she was very tired. It was getting difficult for her to keep her eyes open. Leaning back in her chair, she yawned and stretched out her arms in front of her. Her fingers happened to nudge the computer keyboard aside. She was about to begin typing again. Happened to glance down and noticed there was something scratched into the keyboard. It seemed to be an internet URL. She thought it was odd that someone had taken the time to engrave a website address in the wood, and out of a combination of curiosity and boredom, she decided to look it up. After typing the website address into the browser, and a page appeared on the screen. What she saw horrified her. There was a picture of a man, covered in blood, lying on the floor of a dimly lit room. It looked so real it turned her stomach and made her feel like throwing up. Looking closely, she saw a caption below the image. It read, "Dumb guy, around 30, killed by me today." A chill went down her spine as she stared at the gruesome picture. The girl immediately shut down her computer and, grabbing her handbag, she hurried out of the computer lab. She returned to her dorm room alone and spent the night tossing and turning in bed. The horrible photo she had seen was never far from her mind. Could it be real? She asked herself. Maybe it's just a hoax. People post crazy pictures on the internet all the time. The web is full of weird and disturbing websites. Try as she might, the girl couldn't shake the sneaking suspicion that she had stumbled across the website of a murderer. Worse, he seemed to be boasting about his crime. The next morning after breakfast, her curiosity got the better of her. She skipped her first lecture and headed straight for the computer labs. At the computer, she sat down, typed the URL, and held her breath. Perhaps what she had seen last night was just her imagination. When the website appeared, she saw that the image had changed. In a dimly lit room, the photo showed a blonde woman walking down a busy street. The girl breathed a sigh of relief. The picture appeared to have been taken from a distance, and the woman seemed unaware she was being photographed. The caption underneath read, "Stupid woman, around 25 years old." That evening, the girl went back to her dorm room and didn't speak to anyone. She was still unnerved and couldn't stop thinking about the strange website. As soon as she woke up the next morning, she dressed and went back to the computer lab. There was hardly anyone around. She sat down at a free computer and typed in the website URL. To her horror, it changed again. It was the same dimly lit room. A blonde woman lay on this flubbing from her nose and mouth, and there was a large knife sticking out of her chest. Stupid woman, around 25 years old, killed by me today. The girl was horrified and immediately contacted the police. Over the phone, it was difficult for her to explain the situation. Her English was not very good, and she spent a lot of time repeating herself and trying to find the right words to describe what she had found. In the end, she wasn't even sure if the police had understood what she was trying to say. However, they took her name, address, and number in the URL of the website. When she hung up the phone, the girl was shaking. She couldn't seem to get the awful pictures out of her mind. She had to take another look. That evening, she returned, and with mixed feelings of fear and curiosity, she looked up the URL of the website. When the page loaded, she discovered that the image that hours ago was... Instead, there's a picture of a girl, taken from behind. She had short, black hair, a lime green t-shirt, and was sitting in front of a computer. The girl got a sinking feeling of her stomach, and she broke out into a cold sweat. She recognized the hair. She recognized the clothes. She was staring at a picture of herself. Name and phone number were written under the picture, followed by a single sentence. "You are my next internet star." The girl ran out of the computer lab and went straight back to her dorm room. She packed up her belongings, and the next morning she was on a flight back to Japan. She never returned to the United States again. How we doing? Everything okay? How we feeling? How we feeling? It's a longer one. It took me about 10 minutes to get through. 8 minutes-ish. I do not remember there being so many ads on here. I think I remember this one. It was very predictable. Yeah. Here's another one. Alright? I hardly remember this one, so. My name is Tommy, and I think I might be going insane. I grew up in a normal, middle-class home with loving parents and a sweet little sister. Everything seemed fine until one day when something very strange happened. I came home from school, and when I walked to the living room, I saw something that disturbed me. My mother and father were sitting on the couch, smiling and staring at the TV. The weird thing was that the TV wasn't on, yet they were both staring at it intently. They both turned to look at me and simultaneously said, "Hello, Timmy." My heart leapt up into my throat. My name is Tommy. How can my own parents make a mistake like that? Is everything okay? I asked nervously. Everything is perfect, Timmy, my father replied, smiling from ear to ear. It was creepy. I decided to go upstairs and talk to my little sister. When I walked into her room, she was lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Have you noticed anything strange about Dad? I asked. She smiled at me and said, No, Timmy. Mom and Dad are just perfect. My blood suddenly ran cold. My name is Tommy. Without another word, I backed out of the room. She was still smiling at me as I closed the door. I had no idea what to do. I couldn't shake the sneaking suspicion that there was something wrong with my entire family. I went into my bedroom and I tried to think. I heard my mother coming up the stairs. She went into her bedroom and closed the door. I decided to spy on her, so I went into the hallway and peeked through her keyhole. What I saw terrified me. She was standing with her back to me, and it was something very shocking. Her skin was very pale, and there was a zipper that ran all the way down her back. Whoever she wasn't my mom. That's when the panic set in. I ran down the stairs and out the front door, and I was dashing down the driveway. I looked back and saw my father at the front door. He was on all fours, growling like an animal, howling and chasing after me like a raging demon. Since then, I've been on the keep moving. Now that I know their secret, they can't afford to let me live. In place to place change. I tried to go to the police, but they wouldn't believe me. They said I was a runaway and tried to bring me back to my parents. I just narrowly managed to escape. I tried to go to the media, but every face. I'm tired of running. I'm pretty sure they killed my real family. My only reason for living now is to get revenge. Can anyone help me? My name is Timmy. I do remember that one a bit more now that I've read it again. I think there's a specific one I'm looking for. The commenters are not awful. I love them. They're great. AV Tall's good. It's just really, really long. Trying to find another one. Is there a search bar? There's one I'm looking for, but I can't remember where it's at. I don't have a search bar, unfortunately, so I just have to kind of dig for it. Because I don't remember it properly. I could probably find it. But it would be really, really nice if there was a search bar on this website. I kind of remember Talent. I don't remember what happened in it. But we can read Talent. It's a 5-minute. Okay. Based on a story by a user on this website named Cardboard Pizzas. Okay. If I have nightmares, I'm calling you. I don't care if it's at 3 a.m. Alright. I mean, you chose to be here. Make sure this doesn't go. My little sister Zoe is 13 now. I really love her, and I think I owe her my life. I was 7 years old when she was born. I was so excited to finally have a little sister. At first, I was jealous that she was getting all the attention from my parents, and I didn't pay much attention to her. Sometimes I was just downright mean to her. Sometimes, However, all that changed on the day I realized my little sister has a special talent. We were sitting on the couch, watching TV, when Zoe suddenly said, "Dad isn't coming home." I was confused. "What did you say?" "Dad isn't coming home," she repeated. I was quite unnerved by this and tried to question her further, so she wouldn't say anything more. About half an hour later, the phone rang. When I answered, there was a police officer on the other end, and he sounded gravely serious. He explained that there had been a traffic accident. My mother was in the hospital with relatively minor injuries, but my father had not been so lucky. He died on the way to the hospital. The next few hours were a blur. I just switched off the TV and sat there in shock, staring at the blank screen. I was numb. They said Zoe was too young to grasp the situation, but she understood that Dad was gone and he wasn't coming back. Almost a year later, there was another incident. It was a nice, warm summer day, and Zoe and I were in the park. Zoe was playing on the grass then, when all of a sudden, she stopped and pointed at something. "There's a bad man over there," she said. "We need to go." When I looked in the direction she was pointing, I saw a man nearby. He was dressed in a sweatshirt. He had his hands in his pockets and seemed to be waiting for someone, but something about him seemed strange. With the memory of her father's death still fresh in my mind, I didn't question Zoe. I just grabbed her by the hand, and together we hurried home. The next morning, my mother was reading the newspaper, and I noticed the headline on the front page: "Mother and daughter stabbed to death in park." Beneath it, there was a picture of police leading away a man in handcuffs. It was the man in the gray-hooded sweatshirt. A chill ran down my spine. Any doubts I had before were immediately quashed. My little sister definitely had a talent. From that day on, I listened carefully to anything she had to say, and I would write it down in a notebook I kept in my room. One day, when we were at a restaurant, when Zoe suddenly dropped her knife and fork, looked at my mother and I and said, "Grandpa's gone." An hour later, my mother got a phone call telling her that our grandfather had passed away in his sleep. Mom was very sad, but she had been prepared for the bad news. That was the last prediction for a long time. As the years passed by, I gradually forgot about my sister's talent, to the point where I began to dismiss it all as just coincidence. Last week, my girlfriend and I were spending some time together in our apartment. I got a text message. It was from Zoe. Twitch glitched and made a scary sound, and I'm not having fun no more. Zoe, I need to tell you something. What is it? I need you to listen to me. Something is going to happen. You need to get out of there. Go to a hotel or something. Just get out of there. Reply. Why? What's going on? I don't know. I told you all I know. That's all I know. Okay. I understand. Bye, Zoe. I grabbed my girlfriend, forced her to pack some things in a suitcase, and rushed her out of the apartment. We went to a nearby hotel and booked a room for the night. The next call from our neighbor. He said our apartment had been broken into, but strangely nothing had been taken. We heard straight police, and they arrested the intruder. We had a good day. Apparently Megan's mentally unstable ex-boyfriend had broken into our apartment. He was armed with a knife and was planning to kill both of us. When my girlfriend heard that, she was utterly dumbfounded. All she could say was, "How did your sister know?" Without Zoe, we would both probably be dead, and it still haunts me. Nobody else believes it, but even my girlfriend is still skeptical. But I know what happened. My little sister has a talent. I think we should pick one more. Trying to think of some good ones. Perfect. I remember what that one's about. That one was listed under sad. It's not really scary. It's just like a good one. Wanna go get cheese? Like, can you wait? Like, how long is this? 6 minutes? Alright. I don't remember the title and creepy stories. Alright. One summer, house next door. She lived with her quite poor. Her father had abandoned them the years before. Found it hard to adjust. We both came from different backgrounds. She and I got to be friends. We were not very close friends, but I often visited her house and we would talk. The moment I laid eyes on her, I knew she was the perfect girl for me. Unfortunately, she didn't feel the same way. She was attracted to boys who were confident. She didn't have any friends of her own. Mostly she would complain about her life. Her mother hit her, how mean, and excluded her. She also told me about a boy. He was very... I just sat there and listened. One day, the girl stopped coming to school. As it turned out, it was because she was being bullied. She told me that one of the popular girls in school had found out she was on her boyfriend. The popular girl and her friends would bully her every time they saw her. They even spread vile rumors about her other classmates they were making her a nightmare. She kept quiet and listened as she vented her problems. Her behavior began to change after she entered junior high school. She stayed out until all hours of the night and began to smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol. I heard rumors that she was doing drugs too. She fell in with a bad crowd and was even arrested once. Her home life grew even worse, and she would frequently quarrel with her mother in the middle of the night. School hated her and sprayed graffiti all over her house, calling her horrible names and saying things about her. Someone even killed her pet cat and stuffed it through her letterbox. She stopped speaking to her mother and went for days not leaving her room. She rarely even came out to eat. She looked pale, sickly, and painfully thin. Her mother took to leaving food outside her door. She would only come out when she needed to use the bathroom or in the middle of the night when her mother was asleep. It was a miserable life. I went to see her for the first time in a long time. She didn't come out to see me, even though I yelled through the... Her mother gave me a bowl of soup to take upstairs to her. I caught a glimpse of her when she opened the door to take it. She was pale, drawn, haggard, and emaciated. She looked like a wet rag that had been wrung out. Make sure this doesn't fall asleep. I went to see her every day. After a while, the girl began talking to me through the door. She told me how she was constantly fighting with her mother and how all of her old friends had... She told me how she'd fallen in with a bad crowd and went out with them at night, stealing, doing drugs, and getting into trouble. She told me she was caught shot by police and she had a criminal record. She told me how her mother tried to help her at first, but when she wouldn't listen, her mother flew into a rage and beat her. Her life had become unbearable. She wanted to not exist, and she told me that she had tried to delete herself many times. Just like the old days, she talked on, and I just listened. Whenever she asked for my opinion, I just shrugged or made some innocuous remark. As time went by, the girl's mood gradually. It seemed like things were getting better, and the future was looking positive. Her mother broke down profusely. One day, the girl went up on the roof of an apartment building in the neighborhood and jumped off. Very high, and she landed in the shrubbery. That was probably what saved her. However, her spine was injured in the fall, and she was paralyzed from the neck down. The doctor said she would spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. When she got out of the hospital, I went to see her. She was laying in her bed, unable to move. She apologized to me over and over, and she couldn't stop crying. She said she wished she didn't survive, and told me that she was sorry for all the trouble she had caused me and her mother. I tried to soothe her and stop her crying, but it's hard to comfort someone when they're lying down. I embraced her awkwardly. She was weeping so much that her whole body was shaking. She couldn't even wipe away her own tears. As I held her in her arms, I asked her to marry me. She was like, "Really? Are you serious? Me? Really?" She couldn't believe that anyone would want her. I had proposed to her several times before she would believe that I really meant it. She cried so hard her tears ran dry. I tried to reassure her and told her that I wanted to marry her because I had always loved her. She was the perfect girl for me. She always had been. Even when she ignored me and didn't return my feelings. Even when she was hanging out with a bad crowd. Even when I had to listen to all her stupid problems. Even when she became so thin and was hiding in her room. Even when I told the popular girl she fancied her boyfriend. Even when I was spreading vile rumors about her to her classmates. Even when I graffitied her house. Even when I killed her cat and put it through the letterbox of her house. She's lying there in her bed, small, weak, and unable to move. Even now, I still love her. You see, she is the perfect girl for me. Soon, we will be married. Just for my own sanity, and so I can sleep tonight, I'm gonna stop there. If you'd like me to do this again, let me know. Especially if you're a video viewer, because I've been trying to keep things for video purposes and stuff like that. Yeah. So if you enjoyed this, we could probably get creepy. Also, I just want to make a small limit thing.